Court 11 to Arthur Ashe. The untold rise of Alexandra Eala. For years ago, a 17-year-old girl walked onto the smallest, quietest court at the US Open. A court so far from the cameras that most fans in the stadium didn't even know it existed. Today, that same girl is about to walk out under the lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium, the biggest tennis arena on the planet, in front of more than 23,000 people. Nobody handed her that stage. She fought her way onto it, one impossible match at a time. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what it cost her to get there, and why what happens next might be the most important chapter of her entire career. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Between that quiet court in 2022 and the roar of Arthur Ashe in 2026, there was a moment where it looked like the whole story might just stop. A moment where the next big thing almost became the one who never made it. Stick with me, because the way she pulled herself out of that hole, and the two matches that changed everything, is one of the wildest underdog runs modern tennis has seen. And if you love stories about people who refuse to be counted out, make sure you're subscribed, because this channel is where we tell them. A name the Philippines had been waiting for. To understand why Arthur Ashe Stadium matters so much, you have to go back to a place tennis fans barely notice. Court 11 at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, tucked away from the main stadiums, no massive crowd, no primetime broadcast slot. Alexandra Eala, she goes by Alex, had already been showing up at the US Open Juniors for years before anyone outside the Philippines knew her name. She first played the junior tournament at just 14 years old. In 2021, she reached the quarterfinals. It was progress, real progress, but nothing that could yet change how the tennis world, or even her own country, thought about Philippine tennis. Then came September 2022. Seeded 10th, Eala tore through a stacked draw of some of the best teenage players on the planet. She beat Australia's Taylor Preston. Then she beat Mira Andreeva, yes, that Mira Andreeva, who would go on to become a Grand Slam finalist and a top 5 WTA player just a couple of years later. In the semifinals, she took down Canada's Victoria Mboko in a tense tiebreak. And in the final, waiting for her was the second seed, Lucy Havlikova of the Czech Republic. Think about the pressure sitting on a 17-year-old in that moment. She was thousands of miles from home. Filipino flags dotted the small crowd around Court 11. Manny Pacquiao himself would later post his congratulations to the entire nation. And Eala had a chance to do something no Filipino player, man or woman, had ever done in the Open era. Win a junior Grand Slam singles title. She didn't just win it. She won it without dropping a single set the entire tournament. The first player to do that since Amanda Anisimova in 2017. The final score against Havlikova, 6-2, 6-4, wrapped up in just 68 minutes. "I think this is a huge step for me personally," Eala said afterward. "I'm super happy to represent my country and do something of worth, with a big platform and being able to inspire other younger people." That sentence would end up meaning more than she probably realized at the time. Why a trophy meant more in Manila than almost anywhere else. Here's something worth sitting with for a second. In countries with decades of tennis tradition, the United States, France, Spain, Australia, a breakthrough teenager gets absorbed into an existing story. There's already a Hall of Fame, already a pipeline, already a national identity wrapped around the sport. The Philippines didn't have that in tennis. It has that in boxing. It has that in basketball, in a country obsessed with basketball. But tennis? 100+ million people, and until that Saturday in September 2022, not a single one of them had ever lifted a junior Grand Slam singles trophy. So when Eala beat Havlikova, it wasn't just a scoreline. It was a nation seeing itself in a sport it had never really had a foothold in before. It's why the reaction was so emotional. It's why a boxing legend like Pacquiao felt compelled to post about a tennis match. This wasn't only sports. It was representation arriving all at once on a side court most people had never heard of. And behind that win was a sacrifice most fans never see. Years earlier, Eala had left home to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, trading the familiar for an environment built to forge elite, world-class players. That's not just a tennis decision for a young teenager. That's a life decision. New friends, new language, new pressure, new everything, all in pursuit of a dream that, at that point, was still just a dream. Court 11 was the first real proof that the sacrifice might actually pay off. The uncomfortable truth nobody tells junior champions. Here's the part of the story that doesn't get talked about enough, because it's not as fun as a trophy moment. Winning a junior Grand Slam title doesn't guarantee anything about a professional career. Nothing. The jump from juniors to the WTA Tour is brutal. Opponents hit harder. They defend better. They recover faster between points, between matches, between tournaments. There is no promotion from junior champion to tour contender. You start from zero. Your name might be known, but your ranking isn't, and neither is your body's ability to survive week after week of professional-level physicality. And that created an uncomfortable, lingering question that followed Eala for the next couple of years. Was Court 11 going to be the high point of her career, or the starting line? She kept grinding on the ITF circuit. Smaller tournaments, smaller crowds, unglamorous travel, the unglamorous side of pro tennis that nobody puts in a highlight reel. She picked up her first ITF W25 title, then a W60 final. Then, in 2024, her first W100 title in Vitoria-Gasteiz, Spain, beating Victoria Jimenez Casanseva in the final. Slowly, steadily, her ranking crept forward. But none of it was loud. None of it silenced the doubts. Potential is exciting for a while, and then people just want proof. New prospects kept emerging. New teenage names became the next big thing. That's the nature of tennis. The sport doesn't wait for anyone to develop at their own pace. And through all of it, one question sat quietly in the background. Could Alex Eala's talent survive contact with the very best players in the world? Miami. The week everything changed. Then came March 2025. The Miami Open, a WTA 1000 event, one of the biggest tournaments outside the 4 Grand Slams, and Eala was in the main draw on a wild card, ranked all the way down at world number 140. Nobody expected what was about to happen. In the second round, she beat Jelena Ostapenko, the 2017 French Open champion, coming back from 4-0 down in the first set to win 7-6, 7-5. That alone would have been a career-best result. But Eala wasn't finished. In the third round, she faced Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion, ranked number 5 in the world, and she beat her 6-4, 6-2. With that win, Eala became the first player from the Philippines in the history of WTA rankings, dating back to 1975, to defeat a top 10 opponent. Let that sink in for a second. 50 years of WTA history, and it took until March 2025 for a Filipina to beat a top 10 player. And Eala had just done it on one of tennis's biggest stages. Here's where most breakthrough stories end, though. One upset happens. The internet loses its mind for a day. Then an established star restores order, and the young player fades back into promising but not there yet. That's usually how it goes. Eala didn't let it go that way. In the quarterfinals, she walked out to face Iga Swiatek, 5-time Grand Slam champion, world number 2, and a player Eala actually knew personally from her years training in Mallorca. Swiatek had even spoken at Eala's graduation ceremony from the Rafael Nadal Academy back in 2023. None of that history mattered once the match started. Eala won the first set 6-2. Swiatek fought back in the second, but Eala closed it out 7-5, coming from behind after trailing 4-2. Final score, 6-2, 7-5. Swiatek finished with 32 unforced errors, unable to find any rhythm against a 19-year-old who, according to her own coach's instructions, was told simply to run, go for every ball, take every opportunity, because a 5-time slam champion is not going to give you the win. I'm just in disbelief right now, Eala said afterward, visibly emotional. I really tried to soak it all in, because this has never happened to me before. 3 Grand Slam champions, 3 wins, all in straight sets. Eala became the first wild card in tournament history to beat 3 Grand Slam champions in a single event, and the first Filipina to reach a WTA semifinal. A run so historic it guaranteed her a jump from world number 140 into the top 100 before the tournament had even finished. Rafael Nadal himself posted on social media, "We are extremely proud of you, Alex. What an incredible tournament. Let's keep dreaming." She would eventually fall in the semifinal to Jessica Pegula, But by then, it didn't matter. The question about Alex Eala had permanently changed. It was no longer, can she make the jump to the pros? It was, how far can this actually go? From one great week to a real WTA career. If Miami had been a one-off, it would still be a beautiful story, the kind of underdog run that gets a documentary someday and nothing more. But Eala kept building on it. Later that year, at the 2025 US Open, she picked up her first ever Grand Slam main draw victory, beating Clara Tauson after rallying back from a 5-1 deficit in the deciding set. She kept climbing the rankings through the rest of 2025 and into 2026, eventually becoming the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history and breaking into the world's top 30, a level of sustained success no player from her country had ever reached. And the attention that followed her wasn't just about winning anymore, it became about the crowds. At the 2026 Australian Open, when Eala took the court against American Alicia Parks, hundreds of Filipino fans packed into Melbourne Park, with lines stretching all the way back toward Rod Laver Arena, just to watch her play on an outside court. She took the first set 6-0. Parks fought back to win in 3, but Eala needed a security escort just to leave the grounds afterward. A dozen guards surrounding a player who, for years earlier, had been competing in front of a few dozen people on court 11. It was so heartwarming, Eala said of the reception. That's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder. I know a lot of people were rooting for me. That's the strange, beautiful weight she now carries. Every match isn't just a match. It's a country checking the score. Why Arthur Ashe Stadium is different this time. Which brings us to now, to August 27, 2026. The US Open has announced its Stars of the Open exhibition, part of the tournament's Fan Week festivities, held at 6 p.m. inside Arthur Ashe Stadium, the largest tennis venue in the world, seating more than 23,000 people. It's an event that, in previous years, has featured legends like Coco Gauff, Venus Williams, Andre Agassi, John McEnroe, and Andy Roddick. This year, in its 4th consecutive year, the event is turning the spotlight fully onto the next generation. Eala will headline it alongside 3 other rising stars, all aged 21 or younger. Brazil's João Fonseca, currently ranked inside the ATP's top 30 and fresh off a stunning win over Novak Djokovic at the French Open. American Iva Jovic, an Australian Open quarterfinalist and a good friend of Eala's, and Lerner Tien, also an Australian Open quarterfinalist, who shocked former world number 1 Daniil Medvedev earlier in the season. Eala will actually team up with Fonseca in a mixed doubles exhibition match against the American pairing of Jovic and Tien, with proceeds going to the USTA Foundation to support tennis programs in underserved communities. Here's why this invitation means something completely different from the trophy she won in 2022. Back then, Eala had to force the world to notice her. She needed a result loud enough that people couldn't look away. Now, in 2026, the US Open itself is choosing her, not because of a nostalgic nod to a junior title from 4 years ago, but because of who she has become as a professional. A player who has beaten 3 Grand Slam champions in a single week. A player who has cracked the WTA top 30. A player whose matches now draw crowds that need extra security. The tournament isn't just remembering the teenager from court 11. It's showcasing the player she fought her way into becoming. That's the difference between chasing attention and having attention follow you. First you fight for it. Then, if you're good enough and if you survive long enough, it starts finding you on its own. What comes after the lights go out? But here's a detail worth being honest about, because it matters for what comes next in this story. Stars of the Open is not the US Open main draw. It's an exhibition, part of Fan Week, before the real tournament even begins. Eala isn't being handed a Grand Slam achievement at Arthur Ashe. She's being given a stage, a signal that her name now carries enough weight to be part of one of the sport's biggest showcase nights. And that actually raises the more interesting question. Playing an exhibition under the Arthur Ashe lights during Fan Week is one experience. Playing there when every point carries real Grand Slam consequences, with a seed next to her name, with a nation's expectations riding on the scoreboard, is something else entirely. That's the test still ahead of her. Not this month. Not this exhibition. The next one and the one after that. For Filipino fans, that question carries extra weight. because Eala has been open about wanting her success to build something bigger than her own career, to give tennis a real foothold in a country where the sport has never had one. That's why a packed practice court in Melbourne or a mixed doubles exhibition in Queens can feel like more than sport. Can feel like proof that the path exists now, that a kid in Manila can watch Eala walk out at Arthur Ashe Stadium and believe, for the first time, that this is actually possible. Where the story goes from here. For years ago, a 17-year-old walked out onto a quiet side court in Queens and made history nobody could take away from her. Then came the hardest part, the grind nobody sees, the doubts, the pressure of proving that a junior trophy wasn't the ceiling. Miami gave her the proof. Madison Keys fell. Iga Swiatek fell. The conversation changed for good. Now New York is calling her back, not as a nostalgic footnote, but as one of the faces the sport wants the world watching next. On August 27th, Arthur Ashe Stadium will be full, the lights will be on, and Eala will walk out not as a reminder of what she once did, but as proof of what she's already become, with the biggest question still wide open. How much further can this actually go? If you want to be here for the answer, hit subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of story we're going to keep following, the underdogs, the breakthroughs, the athletes writing history one impossible match at a time. Drop a comment and tell me, when did Eala stop feeling like a prospect to you and start feeling like a genuine threat on the WTA Tour? Was it Miami? Was it earlier? Let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next one.